The Honk here. This is the long-awaited, or at least very overdue, new episode of Instant Experts. It was recorded this past weekend and due out on the Sunday night when the appalling events at Bondi Beach occurred. We don't cover them this episode, but we will next week in our final episode for the year, our Christmas and especially now Hanukkah edition. What happened is a tragedy for Australia, its Jewish community, of which I'm part, but it's also a tragedy for Instant Experts, because even before next week's final episode, I think we all know who our cunts of the year are going to be. We hope this episode gives you some joy at a sad time. And now, on with the show.
This week on Instant Experts, the Honk is back from gallivanting in London.
One has one full report.
Pete Hegseth kills some people.
Don't be such a pussy, Henry.
Honk, they'd surrendered. They were asking for help.
Real men kill defenceless civilians, all right? By remote control from 2,000 miles away.
And in sport, the West's Tigers kickstart their return to the bottom next year.
Get the glory of the Ashes and the golf. Just enjoy being miserable.
Welcome back to Instant Experts, 2 weeks late edition. It's all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and as always, I'm here with my dear friend, the Honk. Honky, welcome.
Henry, my dear fellow, great to be here. And as you adverted to, great to be back after 2 weeks away. It was meant to be one, ended up two, as we'll talk about. We've been off so long, I thought the Epstein files were going to come out.
I thought you'd forgotten, Honk. Still, great to have you back. I missed you.
I actually missed you too.
You're very quiet without you. Literally, I didn't have the soothing sounds of the Dyson hairdryer emanating from the guest room this week. On the upside, my power bill is down 25%.
Well, who's to say I didn't leave a silent hairdryer on the entire fortnight?
Well, Honky, if James Dyson invents a silent hairdryer, he should be knighted twice. Mrs. Lee frequently wakes me up with a non-silent one.
It's so sweet of you thinking that's the noise a hairdryer makes. Yeah, she's really running her hairdryer next to you while you're asleep at 1:15 a.m. But seriously, Mrs. Lee is using a hairdryer because she's getting ready for work. That is, an actual job.
Wait a second. This is like Jerry getting a productivity lecture from Kramer. Leaving a silent hairdryer running to blow out the power bill, by the way, reminds me of a story you told me maybe 30 years ago when we were summer clerking at a law firm, the one that you and Mrs. Honk both worked for later on.
Yes, the Mallisons that shall not speak its name.
Yes.
Which, sidebar, by the way, this week has announced it's reversing its merger with the Chinese law firm King & Wood.
Is that a Chinese law firm or a Pete Hegseth mission title or a gay porno?
I think it's all of the above. It's a bit sad, actually. I mean, King & Wood is a venerable law firm.
It's a venerable front for the Chinese government, Honky. Get real.
You joke, but the word is actually it was worse than that. And in fact, that's why Mallisons pulled the plug. Like, it wasn't just the Chinese government apparently being advised, but possibly other governments, in particular one starting with R and ending with Usher.
Right. Oh, that other venerable firm of Putin and Krasnov.
Putin and Trumsky.
Still, better to fall out with another law firm than fall out the window, Honky.
That's always the choice, right? Anyway, back to your story. Something about a silent hairdryer at Mallisons, wasn't it?
Well, an analogy for it. So, Honk, this was 1995, which obviously was the year that Windows 95 came out, and that drove the transition to Microsoft Word, right?
Although I think I was always an Apple man myself.
Me too. I reckon I had a Mac PowerBook that cost $2,000, and 30 years later, they still cost $2,000. Anyway, the point is that the law firm was still doing documents on Wang word processors.
Speaking of King & Wood, I remember you'd send your documents down to WP, like word processors, to get worked on, or you'd send down dictaphone tapes.
Yeah, the dictaphone's got a real workout in the old days.
It's before the days of HR, right?
Anyway, the point is that the Wangs didn't have the same functionality that Microsoft Word did, like find and replace, for example.
Control F, Control H, you mean?
Exactly. So a secretary decides to leave or gets fired or hates the partner she's working for.
Or they've broken up.
Yeah, and on her last day, she leaves a departure note along the lines, here's file X, here's file Y, here's file Z. And I just wanted you to know I've typed the word fuck into file Z 17 times.
Do you remember this?
And the problem is that file Z is a contract that's like 95 pages long. And as we said, they can't do find replace on the Wang, so I've got to find it.
That's where the summer clerks came in, like where the little shit kickers getting paid a lot to do nothing over the summer in the hope that we'll get paid nothing to do a lot after we graduate.
That's right. I just did the paid to do nothing part, then went somewhere else.
So we're all put to work to find the 17 fucks, and we're going through this contract line by line.
And you find them, right? right?
Well, we found most of them. The first 14 or 15 didn't take too long. Then a few of us had to reread it top to bottom to find the 16th
But
one.
there's still one more out there, Honk.
Right, and we cannot find the thing. It's like the Maltese Falcon. Nowhere to be found. We're spending hours going through it because this is a client document, right?
It's a long binding contract with millions at stake, probably.
Yeah, so we're looking for the last fuck, the 17th fuck, the greatest fuck of all, the whole day, and we cannot find it. And there are like 10 other people reading it by this point.
Half the firm's trying to find it.
Yeah, like the tea lady's trying to find it, the cleaner, the guy who makes toasted sandwiches in the cafe downstairs.
They were good too, those toasted sandwiches, but even they can't find it. No one can find the 17th fuck.
And that is because it was not there. The secretary said there were 17 fucks in the document, and then she only put in 16 just to fuck with everyone's mind.
It was genius.
Although how we ever worked out it was 16 but not 17 fucks, I can't recall.
All right, shall we start the show, Honky? We normally start with you explaining the show is about crooks, fuckwits and morons, but I don't want to hear about a crook, fuckwit or moron. I want to hear about you.
Oh, that's very flattering. You don't think I'm a crook, fuckwit or moron.
I didn't say that, but you're certainly a flaneur.
I have been gallivanting, that's true, in London.
Now tell us all about it. Did you pop down to Whitstable in Kent, which is part of our Kent hotspot? Or did you catch up with any other listeners while you were there? We've got lots of regulars in London, Fulham, Twickenham, Hackney, Wembley, Lambeth, Ealing.
I did catch up with a few, often a regular on the show, listen to the acting Chief Justice, who I hardly recognise with his pants on. May Musk was there.
I can't believe it. Can't believe she was there.
I can't believe.
Where does she buy cacao when she's in London?
Oh, it's very hard these days. There's so many. Well, there's two things really. There's not that many Impala in the car park in London, but there's a lot of congestion and a lot. I don't. It's not politically correct, but there are a lot of black people in London now, and you have to be careful where you park the car.
So May Musk was there.
The woman who once re-listened to us from a Greek island to give us a more exotic location, I think she's a regular listener of ours.
Or was that just in my mind?
Lesbos, but I think Ealing, she was there. Oh, and another listener who is an Oscar-winning producer was there. I did take the liberty of telling him the rights to our podcast were available. And now he's a former listener of that show.
And they remain available. Well, great to have you back, Honk, if only for a week. Next week, loosely defined, is our Christmas/Hanukkah special, Honky.
Watch out, Jesus.
It's going to be 3 wise men and 2 fucking idiots. Hope you can tell the difference. Now, we've done a few shout-outs to listeners already, but we like to welcome our loyal listeners from all over Australia and, of course, all over the world in places like Brussels in Belgium, Auckland in New Zealand, Asheville in North Carolina, and, believe it or not, Kingwood in Texas.
You sure that's not King and Wood, Texas?
But the locations of the week this week, Honk, were for a couple of listeners to our back catalogue. You see, we get location data for our old episodes as well as our new ones. And since we're coming to the end of the year, it turns out that episode 21 about Israel, Iran and the US attracted a listener in Almaty. Honk, do you know where Almaty is?
Well, I didn't until you prompted me and I looked it up. So we just happened to be talking about Iran, which has some possible association with Russia. And the next thing you know, someone from Kazakhstan, probably for the first and only time, is listening to it. Is that not a bit weird?
Well, it's definitely someone from the government, and they're here to help. Episode 16 picked up a listener in Porto Alegre in Rio Grande do Sul, which is the southernmost province of Brazil.
Oh, the best part of Brazil. Indeed, the best part of the Brazilian.
It's the southern part.
The southernmost part. Yeah.
I see. And episode 25, which was about Coldplay Gate, attracted a listener in Makhachkala in Dagestan. Dagestan, of course, is a province of Russia, the southernmost province of the western part on the western shore of the Caspian Sea, about halfway up. So basically the next stop up from Baku in Azerbaijan.
We're a pretty daggy show, so I imagine Dagestan would fit right in. Although, even the lightest jokes about Dagestan, I realise I've got to be careful with, because the sheer number of terrifying lunatics who make up the ranks of the serious MMA fighters who come from Dagestan.
It's true. The great Khabib Nurmagomedov springs to mind.
What about Islam Makhachev?
Well, I see your Islam Makhachev and I raise you a Zabit Magomed Sharapov.
Fuck your Magomed Sharapov. I call you with a double Magomed. I'm talking, of course, about the great Magomed Karamov.
The Magomed distinction I fold them of. Honkamov. By the way, next week, listeners, will do locations of the year. So our most listened to destinations around the world.
Will Darwin be featuring?
Something changes in the next week. Not even once. We haven't had a single listener from that northern hellhole the whole year.
I love the fact that we couldn't crack Darwin, a city in our own country, but we did crack Kazakhstan.
The real question is there a difference? Okay, Honk, we need to do an apology this week, and that is for the timing of this episode. We had a week off with your gallivanting, but that became 2 weeks, as we said, even though we never had a week off when I was gallivanting.
Yes, we did. We did a best off 1 week when you were
That was
away.
different. I was trapped in Pete Hegseth's den, and you were in Stephen Miller's basement. Point is, I made it happen from Rotterdam to Daylesford, from Bali.
The sheer sacrifice. You're my hero, Henry. Instant Experts Man of the Year.
Anyway, we'd been hoping to get the episode out at the usual time of Saturday morning, but events overtook us.
It is my fault. I was jet lagged to hell. Then I actually got horribly sick. We should actually thank a number of listeners who did get in touch with us asking when the next episode was coming out.
Yes, much appreciated. Anyway, apologies for the episode being late. We returned to normal programming this morning, and we'll punch out one more episode for the year. I reckon it'll come out Christmas Eve. And then we'll be back in February around the first weekend for another year of craziness. All right, time for American Carnage. And the carnage has continued unabated, despite your absence, Honk, as it has all year. Plenty of stories to choose from, especially with the extra fortnight. What caught your eye?
An overwhelming number of things. There's been plenty of Trump lunacy and egomania, of course, as there always is. For example, him renaming the United States Institute of Peace, an independent statutory body focused on conflict management, after himself.
Is that true?
True, the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, as California Governor Gavin Newsom called it the KFC Institute for Veganism.
It's like the Hamas Institute for Rabbinical Studies.
And that's, by the way, after Trump and his cronies at Doge tried to dismantle that institute and fire all its leaders.
So he's tried to disband it, and now he's named it after himself.
Before then disbanding the cost-cutting Doge department itself, of course, for never cutting any actual costs.
Well, at least that saves some money, cutting Doge.
What about in the same vein, also FIFA, which is holding the World Cup in the US next year, created this bullshit new award for Trump called the FIFA Peace Prize, which is then awarded to Trump.
I did see that, as did a number of our listeners who sent it to us. But to be fair, Honk, FIFA is perhaps the only organisation in the world as corrupt as the Trump administration. Maybe it and the Olympic Committee. Bunga knows Bunga.
Did you see FIFA at the event in the US where they announced the draw, right, for the various teams? FIFA even hired the village people as the live entertainment.
Did they really? The real ones?
And then Trump got up and did, they call it the double hand job dance, a.k.a. Operation
Who was he giving the hand job to? The construction worker and the policeman? Or did he go with the Indian? Who did he go with?
Well, it wouldn't have been an Indian. I mean, I think there was a guy from ICE. The beautiful bit is now the FIFA president who did all this bullshit is himself under investigation by his own board, it turns out, because he knew it was such a shocking, massive, shameless blowjob with ball work and a cheeky finger assist for Trump that he did the whole thing without telling the board. So now
what about Trump's face when he got the medal? Such pleasure.
He looked like the kid from a Channel 10 Australian News human interest story circa 1987 when we were kids. One of these Make-A-Wish kids getting the paper Macca's hat from the Hamburglar and then believing he's the King of England.
Well, Honk, the big story of the past couple of weeks, and in fact it's only growing in intensity, is Pirates of the Caribbean 3. We've covered it a couple of times on the show, and that is the US Navy under instructions from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, pretty clearly violating both the Geneva Convention and the US's own rules of war.
And as you adverted to, this story is turning into an even bigger event as we speak. The US has been blowing up boats in the Caribbean and even in the Eastern Pacific that it suspects of smuggling
Which
drugs.
It has absolutely no right to do because it has no jurisdiction in those waters.
I looked it up. The count, which may have changed by the time this comes out, is they've killed about 87 people in 22 separate military attacks.
Unbelievable.
The US claims these people are, quote, unlawful combatants on the basis they're engaged in armed conflict without being part of the official armed forces of any one sovereign nation.
Surely they're more like travelling salesmen. They aren't in armed conflict with the US. They just want to sell more coke to Donald Trump Jr. They're businessmen.
That's even assuming they're all drug boats, of course. I mean, many are, but clearly a good number of these boats that have been blown up, in fact, have not been drug boats. In fact, a widow of a Colombian fisherman with, I think, 5 kids who was killed in one of these attacks, the family has just filed a human rights claim against the US over his death, and you just know there's going to be more of those. But even the boats that are likely drug boats, yes, they're crooks, they're criminals, but they're not combatants. And as US politicians on both sides have said, these people don't deserve to be blown up on the high seas. They're meant to be arrested, charged, and tried in a court of law.
And even accepting the argument that they are unlawful combatants for a second, there are still clear restrictions on what you can and can't do in that situation.
One of the things you can't do is kill combatants who are what's called hors de combat, who are outside the fight.
So if they're sick, wounded, captured, or surrendering, you can't just kill them.
Right. Otherwise, you're giving the green light to both sides, whoever they are, in any conflict, just to kill everyone.
Yeah, to take no prisoners.
Right. That doctrine is known as no quarter and is illegal under pretty much every humanitarian and military code of law worldwide. In fact, ironically, the international crime of no quarter in warfare was a focus of the war crimes charges that were brought by the Allies, led by the US after World War II against Japan, because Japan had had a practice during World War II of torpedoing US ships and then deliberately killing helpless US sailors who had survived.
Instead of leaving them to be eaten by the sharks, USS Indianapolis style.
Well, that happened too. Yeah.
So what's Hego done now?
Well, Hego apparently recently gave instructions to the Navy group in the Caribbean in one of these very recent major boat bombings to, quote, kill everyone.
Right.
The problem was when they blew up one of the boats, which, by the way, did appear to be carrying cocaine, two of the crew survived.
Yep.
They were clinging to the hull of the boat. It's very clear in the video. They're clearly incapacitated. They pose no threat. And the reason we know they posed no threat is because the US command debated for an hour what to do about the two guys.
Yeah, but Honk, let's not jump to conclusions. Did the blokes clinging to the boat unleash any counter strikes in that hour with their bare hands? Or with waterlogged keys of cocaine?
They did not. They didn't even offer them any cocaine, which probably itself is also a violation of the laws of the sea. They just spent an hour trying to flip the upturned hull over again so they didn't drown.
Right, and then at the end of the hour?
Navy finally blew them to shit.
So the issue is, even if it was legal to kill the first lot of guys, which it almost certainly wasn't, it definitely wasn't legal to kill the two survivors clinging to the boat for dear life.
Right. It's illegal under the Second Geneva Convention, and it's also illegal under the Fourth Geneva Convention. And under US military law, it is clear there is an obligation not to fire on shipwrecked sailors, whoever they are. Sidebar, it turns out they weren't even headed to the US. They were leaving Venezuela for Suriname, probably with drugs that were headed for Europe.
Right. Well, that's my flight to Berlin for New Year's, cancelled. So how has Hego defended himself in killing these two guys?
He's denied he ever gave the order. That he's sure he had every right to give. And then he named the guy who he said did give the order and said, quote, he has my 100% support.
That's always dangerous. The CEO has the full support of the board, means the CEO is getting boned very shortly.
Yeah, call your lawyer and start negotiating a package right fucking now. AKA the NRL West Tigers Club, AKA stand by for our sports report later in the show.
Yeah, indeed. But Honk, back to Hego and his full support of his admirals. One admiral's quit already over the Caribbean campaign. The commander of SOUTHCOM, the US Southern Command, oversees US military operations in the Caribbean and Latin America. He's a guy called Admiral Alvin Halsey. He announced that he was retiring in October, effective December, which is strange because he was only appointed last November. And it's believed It's because he disputed the legality of the campaign.
Not because he was a black guy and Hegseth hates black guys.
Well, maybe that too, because Halsey is black, as was C.Q. Brown, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff until Hegseth thought he was too woke and a DEI hire, despite Brown flying 200 combat missions in the Air Force and Hegseth being a low-ranking schmuck in the National Guard.
Hey, it was only DEI that gave Brown the opportunity to be shot at flying F-16s over Iraq.
Yes, he stole that opportunity to be shot at by maniacs from a white guy. It could have been shooting at a perfectly nice man from Minnesota. Having said all that, Honk, while I do believe Trump and his administration is racist at a very deep level,
yeah, just ask ICE, right?
Their official policy, I think, is vanilla ice. While it's clearly a white good, brown bad administration, Hegseth did have a crack this week at a very decorated white guy as well, Senator Mark Kelly.
The astronaut you're talking about.
Well, among other things, Captain Mark Kelly is a former naval aviator with 5,000 plus flying hours, 375 carrier landings, which means he survived 375 times, which is a miracle, and 39 combat missions. He is also, as you said, a former astronaut, having flown 4 space shuttle missions, literally flying the space shuttle, and spent more than 50 days in space. He has a Bachelor of Science in Marine Engineering and Nautical Science and a Master's of Science in Aeronautical Engineering. He is married to the former US Congresswoman Gabby Giffords and only entered politics when she was shot in the head by a schizophrenic who killed 6 other people in the shooting. And now Mark Kelly's the Democratic senator from Arizona.
The guy sounds like an American hero.
He is, which of course gives Pete Hegseth shrinkage because Hegseth's CV fits on a postage stamp and comes off when you lick it. Former National Guardsman and Fox News host with very limited combat exposure and no leadership experience.
Well, other than stealing from the Veterans Charity Association, wasn't it?
True. Mark Kelly never did that, so Hego's ahead there.
So what exactly did Kelly do to trigger Hego?
He's appeared in a video along with other Democratic Congress people who are military veterans explaining that US military forces have a duty to disobey illegal orders.
This presumably was in response to these Caribbean killings.
It's pretty clear. Given his Navy connections, Mark Kelly almost certainly would know the inside story on why Admiral Halsey resigned. Kelly, of course, is completely correct. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 92, is very clear about the obligation of service members to obey legal orders. Plus, case law dating back to the My Lai massacre in the Vietnam War is clear there is a corresponding obligation to disobey orders that are patently illegal. The wording used in the US Manual for Courts Martial, which I spent last Saturday night looking up.
What a rageathon. In fairness, though, thanks to Hego, there was no Coke at your place, right?
There was, but it was full of seawater, Honk. Didn't quite work as well.
You mentioned the My Lai massacre. In that case, not only did a helicopter pilot refuse to follow an illegal order, the guy actually landed his chopper between the firing troops and the Vietnamese villagers to bring the massacre to a halt.
It's also worth saying the obligation to disobey illegal orders goes back to the Nuremberg trials after World War II, when Nazi after Nazi defended their actions by saying they were my orders, or Zey Ver my orders, if you do it Colonel Klink style.
And for years, US commentators with military experience have been criticising Trump for not understanding this basic idea that you can't make the military obey illegal orders. For example, back in 2016, a gentleman by the name of Pete Hegseth.
Honk, you're living in the past. That was 10 years ago. It's different now.
Yeah, sorry. Fair enough. So back to Mark Kelly. What's Hego tried to do to Senator Kelly, the war hero, for stating the obvious fact you don't have to follow illegal orders?
Well, he did two things, and in Trump administration style, they combine the grandiose and the super petty. The grandiose was threatening to recall Mark Kelly to active duty. The guy must be in his 60s, so he could be court-martialed for sedition, which is a case with exactly 0% chance of succeeding.
To be fair, that would be consistent with the Trump administration's judicial strike rate overall, wouldn't it?
It's true. And the second thing that Hego did was, in response to a tweet by Kelly with a picture of his medals, was to say that Kelly's medals were in the wrong order, and that the first order of business when Kelly was recalled was a uniform inspection.
Were, in fact, the medals in the wrong order?
They were, but these things happen when A, you've retired from military service 15 years ago, and B, have 4 rows of medals, including a Defence Superior Service Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, a Legion of Merit, 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses, Air Medals with Valor, means you served in combat, NASA Spaceflight and Exceptional Service Medals. The list goes on. The guy could barely stand up.
Yeah, very impressive, but does he have Hegos? 2 cheating on his wives, 1 groping a chick at a convention, 3 falling down drunk on the jobs, and 2 stealing from the kitty of a Veterans Charity Association.
I'm not sure they're in the right order either. You've got to start with the most important, go to the least important. To be fair, it's hard to put those in the right order.
Yeah, it's a great way to get cancelled, trying to put those in the right order, isn't it? We did say at the start, this is a huge and developing story, really all about provoking a sea or even a land war with Venezuela to remove its dictator, Nicolas Maduro.
And I believe the US has just seized a Venezuelan oil tanker.
Yeah, now it's getting really weird because the whole hook for the US has been these are drug dealers. They've seized a Venezuelan oil tanker which has no drugs on board, and then called Maduro a narco-terrorist.
To be fair, the US is addicted to oil. I could make a case for it.
Touché. If Trump needs a new Attorney General. Well, this is all, by the way, while Trump keeps pardoning drug offenders. Don't forget, among his many other bribery pardons, including just this past week, the former president of Honduras, who in his 8 years in power as president, actually was a narco-terrorist who actually was flooding the US with cocaine.
Well, that's very different because it's exactly the same, don't you see? About the guy in Venezuela, Trump should actually love Maduro because he lost the 2024 presidential election but decided not to honour the results. And instead thought he'd stay in power.
So he did what Trump wanted to do in 2020, but he actually managed to Trump.
And also the opposition leader who he refused to let into power, the one who won the Nobel Peace Prize, ahead of Trump.
That's right, yeah.
So maybe that's why Trump hates Maduro.
No, it all makes sense. And last thing, what about Hego in all this? Do we think he survives?
I got to think he'll be like everyone else Trump has ever worked with. He'll be thrown under the bus when convenient.
But gentlemen, especially the driver, start your engines.
There's so much more in Trump world we could talk about, but I think we might keep moving.
Except there is one other political event that I feel like you felt it would be irresponsible journalism of us not to discuss.
Thank you, Honky. I do appreciate it. As you know, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been very busy this year, cringing in the Oval Office when Zelensky was being roused upon by BJ Vance, sidelined furiously in the US's capitulation to Russia. But this week he has won a decisive victory for freedom. He's purged the State Department of a cancer, a rogue agent, a fifth column, a threat to everything the Trump administration stands for, including illiteracy. I speak, of course, of Calibri, the easy-to-read font that has been the default font in Microsoft Word since Wang was a boy.
Is it Calibri or Calibri? I always thought it was Calibri, but is it Calibri?
I used it to type, not talk. Sounds like a surfer. Hey man, this is Calibri. Anyway, Calibri was made the official font of the State Department in 2023 as it is easier to read, especially by those with reading challenges such as dyslexia, poor vision, etc. Rubio, however, described the move as a wasteful DEI initiative and has demanded the return to Times New Roman. Not only that, he's gone from 15-point font to 14-point font to restore the tradition and dignity of the department.
Thank God there are still a couple of patriots in the United States. Calibri/Calibri only became the default font in Word in 2007, replacing Times New Roman like some dirty immigrant taking the job of a real hardworking American.
Yeah, or true New Roman, as the case may be. But it turns out Calibri itself was replaced by Aptos in 2023, like a dirty immigrant being replaced by AI. But Honk, the Times New Roman was only the default font at the State Department for 20 years. Before that, it was Courier New, the typewriter font. So a real American, a native American would be typing like a fucking typewriter, saying to people, we surrender in Courier New. That's what a real American would do. That's what Hulk Hogan would do.
At least someone... Trump could type in fluent Russian. They don't need... At least someone has the courage to keep America safe from sans serif fonts, right? Although myself, I would have gone for like Nazi Gothic, to reinforce the central administration message.
Yeah, Zey Ver Owr Orderz. This is a State Department. Here are your orders. Okay, Honk, the entertainment news. And the big news this week is we both got our Spotify Wraps for the year. Now, I've got yours, Honk, and it says you listened to 247 genres during the year, the top 5 of which were Britpop, folk pop, yacht rock, funk, and musicals.
I'm a very diverse and eclectic guy. Do you mind?
Sounds to me like you're a very confused guy.
Also a very old guy. My listening age was 71.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Your top artist was Oasis, and your top album was Taylor Swift, Life of a Showgirl, which you listened to for 226 minutes in various orders of your choosing. That's not much, by the way, though, because that's less than 4 hours, 226 minutes, and that's about half of a normal Taylor Swift album with all the remixes and shit.
Well, unlike some people, I actually do a lot of work for this show. Okay, Beethoven, I've got your stats. You listened for a total of, get this, listeners, 110,343 minutes. That is 76 days of music.
Well, there are a few podcasts in there as well, but I like to have music on while I work, Honk.
So when is that? When do you... Does that happen?
I work sometimes.
Your top genres were folk pop, dream pop, alternative rock, pop, and alternative country.
Yes, I was disappointed to see that fifth one come in. My sister Lee is going to absolutely love that because I rubbished her constantly for years for listening to country music, and now here we are.
And Mel Haggard, Waylon Jennings, your listening age is a sprightly 67.
And suck on that, Grandpa.
You listened to 123 albums, including Taylor Swift's Lover and Benny Andersson from ABBA's album Piano.
Which you put me onto, Honky, and which is fantastic. And it's really him. It's not a hologram robot in London.
But number one with a bullet for you, Henry, was guess what album?
I know exactly what it is, and I reckon our listeners know as well.
It is, of course, Excitable Boy by Warren Zevon, which you listened to for, no bullshit, 54 hours. That's non-stop for more than 2 days.
It's genius, Honk.
Either that or you had a stroke and you couldn't reach your phone to turn it off. And also a big thank you I've got to say to the several listeners who did get in touch with us to say that Instant Experts on their Spotify apps was among their most listened to podcasts for the year. We really appreciate it. Raf from Sydney told us that. Also, our long-time listener Philippa in Nairobi, Kenya, it ranked very highly, our podcast on Spotify for her.
Also, kudos to listener Zebediah, who has the oldest listener age we are aware of, which is 82.
Zebediah, is he one of the three wise men? I think a 2053-year-old listening to new stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, he listens to a bit of Vivaldi on his way to Bethlehem on his Walkman.
Made of stone. Actually, listener Antonio of London is even older. He has a listening age of 89.
That sounds like it is Vivaldi. I'm pretty sure he was Antonio as well, wasn't he? Antonio Vivaldi.
He was.
Lately of London.
Okay, we come now to Henry's favourite segment, Time for Sport. This is truly your time of the year, is it not?
Yes, and so much happened in sport the past 5 years since we recorded the last episode because of your gallivanting. We had the pink ball Ashes test in Brisbane, where the Poms were defending the honour of Bazball, the hyper-attacking style they've developed in the past few years.
And trying to avoid total humiliation.
Yes, and failing miserably. We've had Rory McIlroy, Cam Smith, Minwoo Lee and Adam Scott playing golf at Royal Melbourne in the biggest Australian Open golf in years. I was down there for work and it was amazing.
You were watching golf for work, were you?
I've done some work for Golf Australia and I was enjoying the hospitality at the Golf Australia Lounge. Golf Australia rightly is getting a lot of credit for bringing the tournament back to Royal Melbourne for the first time in 34 years and for bringing Masters champion Rory McIlroy down to play on it. But I think in years to come, their greatest legacy will be seen to be giving me a free ticket.
I cannot believe we are doing free plugs like that on this show.
It's not a free plug, Honk. It's cash for comment. It's very different.
Oh, sorry.
It's very different. Besides, we plug Dyson hairdryers all the time, including this week.
That is different. They are life-saving medical devices. To the Ashes cricket series again, quickly tell us for the uninformed, why are England so incredibly shithouse?
Well, I think it's their tactical versatility that's been their downfall. Sometimes they can't bat, sometimes they can't bowl, and sometimes they can't field. And they can't work out which one to not be able to do at the right time.
So they've lost the first two tests, Western Australia and the one
in Queensland.
Badly, right?
Yeah, Perth took 2 days. It was over almost before it began. Brisbane, I think they strung it out to late on the third day, but they've been pretty poor, it's fair to say.
But the big story in sport this week is a truly very sad one.
It is, Honky, and it involves our beloved shithouse football team, the Wests Tigers.
As we've explained many times, the West Tigers are a footy team in their own right in the National Rugby League here in Australia. This is one of the 27 professional football codes we have, but they're also representative of shithouse football teams all over the world.
It's kind of like supporting the idiot love child of Tottenham Hotspur and the Cleveland Browns. The Eric Trump of sports teams. It's like, who are they and why? And which wife do they come from?
We were so excited this year, you and me, because we're Tigers fans, and after coming the last 3 years in a row, the Tigers this past year lifted big time to only finish 13th.
It's only fifth last. It's a huge improvement for us.
But huge improvement is against everything the West Tigers club stands for.
So, Honk, they have taken decisive action this week. A quick step back to give some context. The West Tigers were formed in the year 2000 by merging two NRL foundation clubs, the West's Magpies and the Balmain Tigers, both from the west of Sydney. I started following the Magpies in the early 80s, but like most fans, I've long accepted the merger and the West's Tigers as my team, especially after they won the premiership in 2005.
Where Benji Marshall, who is now the current coach, was the
superstar player, beloved by Tigers fans everywhere and doing a pretty good job as coach. And he's been ably assisted by a CEO called Shane Richardson, who has masterminded premierships for two other rugby league clubs, Penrith and Souths. And for Souths, that was their first premiership win in 40 years after also being chucked out of the competition for a while.
So you've got the right leadership in place, results are improving, good players are joining, just let them get on with it, right?
But that's only if your goal is to win.
Oh, I see. Right.
There are still factions that never got over the merger and they're constantly undermining each other. The Magpies undermining the Tigers undermining the Magpies.
So what happened this week?
Well, want to be shithouse, Honk. Like anything else, you can't just rock up on the day and hope to be shithouse. You got to plan for it. You got to work at it.
Losing starts on Monday.
Losing starts in pre-season, Honk. Aim low. The Tigers this week made a decisive move. One of the reasons they've got a good coach and a good CEO is that they have a good board. It's independent and was chaired by a very capable guy, the former Premier of New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell.
Who amazingly resigned as premier over a bottle of wine he forgot to declare as a gift.
Which to me is an endorsement fundamentally of his integrity. Imagine somebody in the Trump administration resigning over a bottle of wine.
Wouldn't get a start in the Trump administration, Trump cabinet. Just doesn't have that winning billion-dollar bribe feel, does it?
Yeah, so they have a former premier chairing an independent board, an elite CEO, an improving team. So what do?
Stack 'em all.
Very, very close, Honky. The majority owners of the West Tigers are the Holman Barnes Group, which is basically a different name for the Western Suburbs Leagues Club.
This is the Magpies side of the joint venture.
And they're the ones that appoint the board, which used to be a bunch of stooges from the Leagues Club. Then in the middle of all the wooden spoons, they decide an independent board is a good idea, which they appoint, which has success, and which they proceed to sack 11 months later to replace with stooges from the Leagues Club.
And not just any stooges, a chairman of the Holman Barnes Group, who's about 300 years old, a guy no one's ever heard of.
He looks like Rod Stewart, who's been in the microwave for about 5 minutes on high.
Doesn't it turn out he follows
long blonde hair, stringy.
Doesn't it turn out the guy follows like 100 plus OnlyFans girls on Instagram, including such luminaries as sunnyb.xoxo and, quote, Gamer Girl P official. And just to be clear, that is spelled P-E-E the liquid, not P-E-E the letter.
I'd believe it. So he's the chairman of the owner. He sacks the chairman of the club and the independent directors. Right. Then they leak a story that the CEO is the subject of a probe by the NRL Integrity Unit.
So the CEO is going to get fired or is going to quit.
Well, he has quit or was fired. It's a total shit show. And now the club is back in the hands of faceless stooges.
And don't forget Gamer Girl P official.
Yeah, and Rod Stewart. Except the rumours now are that the very good former premier and former chairman Barry O'Farrell is coming back.
What?
And they've re-signed the great coach Benji Marshall for 3 more years till 2029.
Wait, I thought you said this club was owned by these Holman Barnes Muppets. It's clearly owned by Vince McMahon. This is a WWE level situation.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Tigers, without a ball being kicked, are returning to losing ways for sure and for certain in 2026.
The wooden spoon is all ours, baby. Okay, time for our most important, our most respected segment. In a world of crassness and name-calling, thank God for Cunt of the Week. Music, please.
I'm a cunt.
Okay, first, quick kudos to people dealing with cunts of the week.
Hockey, first to the Irish restaurant that realised it had cheap shit Irish airline Ryanair's CEO and I believe a notorious cunt, a guy called Michael O'Leary. He came in as a diner. And so they added to his bill €40 for, quote, extra legroom, priority seating, and a quiet area reservation.
Superb. And kudos to 50 Cent for absolutely jamming it in disgusting sex trafficking psychopath P. Diddy/Sean Combs.
50 has been trying to expose Diddy's fuckery for years, and now he's produced a massively watched doco released on Netflix called Sean Combs: The Reckoning. Contains explosive revelations about his murders of other rappers, the freak-off parties in which he drugged and molested scores of young women, and 50 Cent is clearly one of the great haters of history.
Diddy didn't do himself any favours, right? It turns out Diddy hired a videographer to film what Diddy was sure would be his exoneration in that sex trafficking trial. Then when Diddy lost, he refused to pay the videographer, so 50 found the guy, paid him what he was owed, and put all the footage in the doco.
Oh, finishing move. Fiddy has also given detailed interviews on a Netflix doco to ABC television in the US. Why did he do that, Honk? Because he worked out that was the channel that prisoners in Diddy's jail are allowed to watch in their common area, and he wanted Diddy to see it with all the other prisoners.
Fiddy is such a great hater. He also hates the rapper/singer Ja Rule, I think again for Diddy-linked reasons. And this is such a great example of Fiddy's fuck you mentality. When he heard that Ja was playing a big live show recently, Fiddy got his assistant to buy every seat in the first 4 rows so they'd be empty. And Ja would have to come out and perform to no one that he could see in front of him. It's so good.
He is a PIMP.
But now to the actual cunts. And Henry, plenty of honourable mentions this week.
Trump disgraced himself about 1,000 more ways. US national parks often let visitors in free on special days, including Martin Luther King Day, which remembers the great and tragically assassinated civil rights leader of the 60s. That's a public holiday in the US. National parks are also open for free on Juneteenth, June the 19th, which commemorates the end of slavery in the USA in 1865.
So now national parks will charge customers to visit on those days.
He's done two things. He's got rid of free admission on the two black holidays, and he's replaced them with free admission on Trump's his own birthday.
Fucking kidding.
I think you're allowed to drill for oil as well on that day. And he's stripped out Juneteenth, which is June 19th. When's Trump's birthday? June 14th. What a fuck you. What a cunt.
I cannot wait for the restarting of slavery.
Coming soon to a national park near you.
ICE, which we've talked about earlier in this episode, had truly one of its greatest ever weeks at being total cunts. That included having an alleged illegal immigrant in cuffs on the ground and then running over the guy's legs with an ICE SUV on camera.
What?
They arrested a woman who had just true, it's on video. They arrested a woman who had just given birth by C-section at a hospital. They jailed her, leaving the baby behind alone in neonatal intensive care.
Jesus Christ.
They grabbed the 19-year-old Boston college student at the airport. She was traveling home to Texas to surprise her family for Thanksgiving. She had no idea there was any issue with her immigration status. They have deported her to Honduras alone. And finally,
They didn't import enough cocaine, obviously, because if you do 400 kilos like the president, no problem.
And ICE this week even helped White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt's total cunt of a brother avoid having to pay alimony by having ICE jail his non-citizen ex-wife in retaliation for her filing for divorce.
Oh, my God.
Now it gets seriously cunty. First off, the ongoing tragic saga of Arnie the dog.
This is the story a couple of weeks ago about the Queensland German Shepherd whose owner said was sleeping in his ute outside the house when someone stole the ute. The guy and his girlfriend launched a huge social media campaign. Hundreds of thousands of people got involved. But then it turned out the ute hadn't been stolen. The guy had simply driven it and the dog into town in Brisbane to go to a nightclub. The guy was too drunk to drive and left the car there, and the dog was found 10 days later starving to death. Have I got that right?
Dog had starved to death. Dog was dead. Then it turned out the guy lied to his girlfriend because he lost his driver's license, hadn't told her, and he was driving around without it.
Right.
He got arrested for that and for animal cruelty. But now comes the best bit, because it turns out the guy drove into the city with the dog in the back of the ute, not to go to a club, but so that he could go to a brothel.
That's the guy, I presume, not the dog, by the way.
On this occasion, yes. But at the brothel, this guy was such a drunk fuck, they refused him service.
How big a cunt do you have to be turned down by a Brisbane handjob parlour? What a big one, I would have thought. You would know.
But Henry, it's still small fry because we have to welcome the Australian Bureau of Meteorology. It has a website that needed an upgrade, the website that tells everybody in Australia what the various bits are of our national weather. The original estimate for the work was $4 million.
Right, that sounds pretty expensive, but it's an important website, so okay.
But it's finally come out what the real total cost was. Do you want to have a guess?
Well, it's an IT, so I'll double the original estimate. Say 8 to 10.
Total final cost was $96 million, of which $78 million was paid to the consulting firm Accenture.
For what?
Who the fuck knows what? The new website doesn't fucking work. Everybody hates it. It's worse than the old one. Non-stop complaints, but that's still not the worst of it, because this week a bunch of guys at a Melbourne tech company decided to see if they could build a replica of the new website and actually make it work. They did it on lunchtime. The cost of their time, a few $100s. Bureau of Meteorology, fellow corporate scammers in any weather, cunts of the week. Unbelievable.
Okay, folks, that's all we have time for. It's been a pleasure to be back with you after so long. No thanks to the honk. You can find us in all the usual locations: London, a sick bed, making excuses, a TikTok, Instagram. Please share us on socials with your mates. Really helps us, and rate the show on the Apple Podcast Store.
Please also check out our show notes, which you can get wherever you get the podcast. You can send us a text from those show notes. We can read on the show. You can send us a voicemail direct from those show notes. We'll play it on the show and read our show notes, as we always say, for even dumber jokes. Henry always writes.
We will be back with a Christmas special on or about Christmas Eve. So a little present hiding under the tree for you.
Tell our listeners, what's the episode going to have?
It'll be a look back on a very cunty year. It's been a crazy year, hasn't it? And some new stuff as well. So we'll try and keep it under 2 weeks running time.
Last for this week, though, we usually like to finish, as listeners will know, with some audio of particular crookery, fuckwitticism, moronification.
Honky, this week with Christmas approaching, I thought we'd go with something a little more spiritual. And this one is courtesy of Pope Leo and the priest/DJ Guillaume Peixoto. My Spanish pronunciation, let alone Slovakian pronunciation, leaves a lot to be desired. It comes from St. Elizabeth's Church in Kosica, which is in Slovakia, where the local archbishop was turning 75. So to celebrate, the church put on a rave. Picture thousands of young people standing outside the cathedral, the building lit up in the winter night, freezing cold, a Christmas message from the Pope projected on a huge screen in front of the church, followed by a massive laser show. It is sick, Honky.
It is pretty amazing. And then we also wanted to play something that really gives a feel for the summery neighbourhood quality of an Aussie Christmas. And Henry, again, you found a beautiful example of that.
I did. It only came to my attention this week. It's from an Aussie band called Play Lunch, and it's the story of an angry neighbour called Keith, who gets upset when the boys park in his parking spot on the street, because when he bought the house, somehow he thinks they included the public road.
But not just one parking spot on the road, because Keith needs a whole other parking spot for his trailer, which of course just sits there all year long doing fucking nothing.
That's right, but you can't park in front of it or Keith will get very upset. And I saw the video for this as well. We'll post it to our show notes for the episode. And angry Keith is played by the former Sydney Swans Aussie Rules football star and boxer Barry Hall, who's brilliant. He's a big, intimidating unit. Punched a lot of people in his playing career. He's a bit like Vinnie Jones playing Big Chris in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, if you remember.
I do. Anyway, cunts like Keith are a universal phenomenon, especially when everyone's home around Christmas, especially in Australia and the parking gets tight.
Yeah, so please enjoy Pope Leo, DJ Priest Guillaume and Play Lunch/Keith.
And we'll be back for our last show of the year on or just before Christmas Eve because, as the great Henry Lee always says,
stupid never sleeps.
Does the DJ Priest go to the after parties with all the kids? Because I'm a bit nervous.
Well, you can go too if you want.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit come upon you and remain with you always. Amen. Witness the communion.
There's a man at the Malvern TAB, shaved head, tatted up, about 6'3". He was our neighbour when we lived on Hotham Street, and though we never got his name, we called him Keith. Keith had a white Volkswagen Amarok that he parked out front his house with a steel two-wheeler trailer that he liked to tow around. One day our mate was coming round and parked out on the street, and little did we know we had just started World War III. The bloke was seething, he was enraged, knocked on our door like a dog in a cage. We opened up, his face was red, took off his speedies and he said, "Don't park with my trailer, cunt, don't park in my spot. It's the second time this week and I'm about to lose the plot. I phoned up the council and the bloke said it was mine. Move your shit heap of a car to the other fucking side." Monday afternoon in early spring, the family across the road had a gathering. A pregnant woman pulled up in a CRV, spotted a park and said, "Well, that's for me."
Oh, g'day, love. That's my house, so you'll have to park elsewhere.
She said, "Surely you could just as easily park it over there." Surely you could just as easily park it over there. And from our porch, we watched the scene as something snapped